What's going on, you guys? Before I sat down to record today's video, I learned a pretty cool new editing trick. Check this shit out. That was it. That was literally the entire trick I had to show you guys. So the moral of the story is we're going to be letting loose and having some fun in today's video. We're going to be talking through 3 breakout year 3 wide receivers, 3 guys that I think have some really good upside here. Draft value might not necessarily be a factor in each of these players' situations. We'll talk through that in today's episode, but again, 3 guys that I expect to have significant improvements in their fantasy football productivity for the 2022 season here. Let's get started. All right, of course, if you guys are new around here, make sure to drop down and click that subscribe button, turn the bell on so you're never late for an episode. We're trying to grow the community here, help out as many fantasy football players for 2022 as possible, and have a great season dominating our leagues with each other. So also leave a like as we get into the video, and if you find things helpful, of course, again, leave a like. So Gabe Davis is the first player I want to talk through today. Of course, I did mention these are year 3 breakouts. I'm not sure if that'll be specified in the thumbnail or not, but these are all from the class of the 2020 draft. So year 3 wide receivers, Gabriel Davis is the first player on the board. Now, ADP, when things come to the situation here when we're talking about my actual willingness to draft these players, I kind of previewed this in the start of the episode. Not all these guys are great draft day values, in my opinion. There is 2 guys on the list that I do like at their current ADPs, but Gabe Davis is not one of them. Now, when we talk through the upside that Gabriel Davis has, that is absolutely in play here. This is a player who has seen his draft stock skyrocket because of one singular game, one singular performance, that being the divisional round matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs in this past year's postseason, where Gabe Davis had over 200 yards and 4 touchdowns. Yes, you heard that correctly. If you didn't watch the NFL last season, if you didn't play fantasy football, if you just didn't happen to tune in that game, or if you're in the fantasy community and you live under a rock, 4 TDs, 200 yards. That's what you need to know. That basically sparked this absurd hype train that has gotten way off the tracks here, and I think needs to pipe down just a little bit. Now, his ADP the last week or so has mellowed out slightly. He was starting to approach the 3rd round of drafts, which is completely asinine if you ask me. Now he's pulling back a little bit right now. He's the 4.8 overall pick, but he's the wide receiver 21 off the board. For a guy who has as little of a proven track record as Gabe Davis, how the did we let that happen? Now, this is not something that, the upside is there. He absolutely could smash on his ADP and could turn out to be a worthwhile draft pick. But we have such a little sample size and such little information to base that valuation of him off of. I was on Gabe Davis and a guy who really liked him in like February and March when his draft value was in the 6th and the 7th round. But now that we're getting into such prime draft territory where I feel I can draft other players more worthwhile and more deserving of my draft capital, that's where I'm going to go in that direction. However, draft value is not the point of today's episode. We're simply talking through year 3 breakouts and guys that should get a lot better this season. So why is Gabe Davis a player that has seen this skyrocketing ADP? Well, again, it comes from that game against the Chiefs. It comes from the fact that he's tied to a Josh Allen, arguably one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the National Football League. Despite the little proven success, having just a 10.9% target share last year, a 49.3% snap share, which is below half the time he's on the field, he was still a guy who had a 22.2% target rate. What is target rate versus target share? The target share is how much of a piece of the pie, how big that piece was of the entire Bills offense. The target rate is going to just factor in the routes that he ran. So it's going to be targets per route run. He had a 22.2% target rate, which is a lot better than that target share number. Now, we obviously know Stephon Diggs is still a top option in this offense, but that breakout game, that upside, the really nice build that you have here at this wide receiver 2 position, a player who athletically is very capable of being a top level target in this Bills offense, that's where we start to get that hype from. A guy that could position himself to be the number 2 pass catcher in a Josh Allen-led offense still gives you very, very good upside. So that's essentially the basis of the analysis here for Gabriel Davis. He was 8th in average depth of target, aka ADOT, last season, so he's getting some downfield opportunities. That's very nice to see. That'll help that efficiency number out, especially if he's not receiving a high volume of looks. I would say his target ceiling is probably around 120, and if he gets close to that marker, you're probably talking about him actually hitting on this ADP. But for now, it's a little bit, rich for my blood. I'm not too into drafting Gabe Davis at his current ADP, but he does have breakout potential written all over him because, again, we're expecting a significant step forward in his usage in this Bills offense, and he should be somebody that is getting some quality opportunities and quality looks this season. But again, when you're talking about an unproven asset going in the, at times, top of the 4th round of drafts, I'm out on that case, and I will be looking elsewhere. Van Jefferson is the next player I want to talk about here. His ADP is the wide receiver 70 overall off the board, and he's going at the 13.1 pick overall. So I am a much bigger fan of Van Jefferson at this draft position. I think that, I have a really hard time passing on him in the 12th or 13th rounds of my leagues. I think that the upside is so good here, and you get yourself a really nice opportunity for a cheap stack with Van Jefferson and Matthew Stafford. Stafford can be found in the 8th plus rounds, and he can be a guy who I think delivers very, very solid QB1 upside at his draft position. If you guys want more information in depth on any player in the National Football League for fantasy football this year, on my website, sizzlefantasy.com, I've got over 300 in-depth player profiles accessible to Draft Guide owners or SFS Gold members. You can check out my website, get access to those profiles, or you can head over to Underdog Fantasy and sign up using promo code SFS. They'll double your money when you deposit using that promo code, and you'll get access to the draft guides, all 300 of the player profiles. You can get more information on the 3 players we're talking through today or any other player in fantasy football that is of some relevance. Again, we have over 300 players live in the site right now. I finished up that top 300 list. I've got dynasty rankings, redraft rankings, obviously sleepers, busts, must-own players in rounds 1 through 20. And again, you can get access to those draft guides, site-wide access and membership through the Super Bowl when you deposit on Underdog using promo code SFS. So back to Van Jefferson here. Just wanted to give you guys that quick tidbit and information there if you didn't have it already. Van Jefferson is someone who I think can thrive in this wide receiver 3 role for the Rams offense this season. You've got a situation with Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson where they're going to eat. They're going to get their numbers. I'm not projecting Van to be a volume monster this season and take over a percentage of the target share that he doesn't already have. That's not the case. That's not what we're expecting here. What I am expecting is elite levels of efficiency from Van Jefferson. You've got a former 2nd-round pick in the 2020 draft, a guy who the Rams really, really liked coming out of college, that is going to see the lightest coverage of any wide receiver on the field, unless they go into a 4 wide receiver set here, and he is going to absolutely eat. This is a player that skill set lines up very nicely with Matt Stafford. That's why I referenced that quarterback wide receiver stack there, that downfield can do some serious damage. Cooper Kupp is going to draw at least some level of double team nearly every single play. Allen Robinson is going to eat on the other side of the field or lined up out wide. Cooper Kupp will be taking slot snaps. Whatever the case might be, those two are going to be doing their thing. They're going to be the 2 volume leaders in this offense. Then you're going to see a situation where facing tertiary coverage, meaning the number 3 corner from the opposing team, Van is going to cook them over the top. He is going to be the vertical stretcher and the guy that makes the big splash plays downfield. Now, Allen Robinson and Cooper Kupp can do that stuff. They will have their opportunities to do that in their own right. But Van is going to see, at such a discounted draft capital right here, I think that he can really take that next step forward. We saw him do some nice things last season. I think he will do even better things here in 2022. He was averaging over 5.2 targets per game last season, 81.1% of the time he was on the field taking snaps for this offense. And even if, I know there's going to be some players or some, guys that are thinking, what about Odell Beckham Jr.? What if he comes back? A, he's still a free agent. And B, if OBJ signs back with the Rams, I still am not sold that he plays football this year. You can't convince me that a guy who took so long to recover from the first ACL injury that then proceeded to tear that knee again is going to come back faster the second time around, having 2 significant injuries to the same leg, to the same part of the body. I don't know if OBJ plays football in 2022, and if he does, I am not expecting him to play it week 1. That is for certain. Van will still have a role here. This team does like to go in 4 vert sets and get 4 receivers out there on the field, or they'll flex out a tight end off the line of scrimmage and put him in the slot. The case and the point is here, though, at such a discounted draft price, Van Jefferson should be somebody that is able to be highly effective with the targets and opportunities he's given. Again, not a volume monster, but over 5 targets a game for what we're expecting him to do will get the job done. And again, I find myself drafting him frequently and at a high rate, and I think that just his progression as a player, you expect him to have an upward ascension, continuing to have another offseason to refine his route tree, to get better. He's not just a vertical weapon. He's not a prolific underneath and intermediate wide receiver, but he is a guy that is capable of running that route tree and doing it at a fairly high level. The final player here, Jerry Jeudy, someone I am super excited about. There is a reason that Jerry Jeudy is my he is a must-own player. Spoiler alert, if you don't have the draft guides, if you haven't watched a video yet this season, Jerry Jeudy is a must-own player. I'll give you that piece of information for free here. Jerry Jeudy is someone that is my highest owned player, that's what I meant to say, across all my leagues this season. Whether it's Underdog, drafting best ball leagues, again, promo code SFS gets you the draft guides free through this season's Super Bowl, and you get double your money when you sign up too, and I will join leagues with you guys and play along with you, so it's not just a sign-up thing and we're done. You guys can play with me, join my Discord server, join SFS Weekly. I drop the leagues I'm filling in those all the time, and I am looking to play with you guys this season, so hit me up on there. Again, Underdog code SFS, the last time I'll mention that in today's video. Jerry Jeudy, though, across all the leagues I'm playing in this season, is my must-own, or I keep saying must-own. He's my most owned player by a good chunk of ownership percentages for, what amount of my leagues, the percent of those leagues in which I own Jerry Jeudy. In the 4th round, I cannot get enough of Jerry. He's the wide receiver 22. His ADP is the 412 overall. And again, how the is he being drafted after Gabriel Davis? I still can't believe that this is happening. You're getting a former first-round pick in the 2020 draft who has had the worst quarterback play, arguably, of any receiver in the league from the 2022 season, or from the 2020 season to the 2021 year. There is such an opportunity to grow here. Let's talk about why. The first reason is the Russell Wilson effect. You're getting probably the biggest jump in quality of quarterback play from one offseason into the 2022 season of any other player in the league. The difference between Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater to even Russell Wilson at his floor is astronomically different. The outcomes for Jerry Jeudy literally just, I don't know what number to put behind this, but the multiplier of impact that Jerry Jeudy can have now with this improved quarterback play is so big. So let's take a look at Russell Wilson, his career body of work, and the numbers he has produced for his top fantasy football wide receivers. He has had a top 16 wide receiver finish in every season since 2015. That means that at worst, you're going to be getting a high-level wide receiver 2, which already puts Jerry Jeudy in a situation where he is going to outdo his ADP. He's going as a low-level wide receiver 2 right now, and spoiler alert, I think he has top 10 wide receiver 1 upside. Russell Wilson has also produced 2 top 13 wide receivers in fantasy points per game in back-to-back seasons. So that being DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, he made both of those guys top 13 fantasy weapons in back-to-back years. That is crazy. That means that Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy can find coexisting success on the same team in 2022 and beyond. Additionally, Jerry Jeudy is the top dog in this offense. If you take a look at the 9 games played between Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy when they were both healthy and on the field last season, Jerry Jeudy had 14 more targets across those 9 games and over 200 more receiving yards. That shows that he is the better player in this offense. He has been an animal since his days at Alabama. He was arguably, and I would argue that it's not that much of a close competition, he was the best collegiate player of any of those dominant wide receivers. Now, he didn't win the Heisman like Devontae Smith, but he was my wide receiver 1 for a reason coming out of the 2020 class. So, all this put together, Jerry Jeudy, if you don't draft at least a few shares, if you've got multiple fantasy leagues, well, first of all, if you're in one fantasy league, you need to draft a share of Jerry Jeudy. If you have multiple fantasy leagues, you need multiple shares of Jerry Jeudy. It's not that you have to draft him every single time in the 4th round, but the opportunity to just slap some good old upside and breakout potential here is huge. He's a phenomenal route runner, has great size, Obviously, his athletic profile fits out well. He was a former first-round pick, again, in that 2020 draft. There is so much room for opportunity. Easily, Jerry Jeudy is one of the most passionate players I have the most passion for in 2022 fantasy football, because I think that you're just getting so much opportunity when you draft him in the 4th rounds of your leagues. And at times, I have had the opportunity where he slips to me in the 5th round, and that's just all the better. So those were our 3 wide receivers today. Again, if you want more in-depth fantasy information, check out sizzlefantasy.com and the 2022 draft guides. When you purchase draft guide access, you'll also get access to me, my private DMs on the community Discord server. I'll answer all of the questions you ask me in there and set your lineups for you if you guys get access through the entire 2022 season. So that's every single week. I will help you set your lineup if you are an SFS Gold member. And again, you can get access to all that for just $10 through Underdog Fantasy and code SFS. So let me know your guys' thoughts on these 3 2022 breakout players. Are you more fond of Gabe Davis at his ADP than I am? Are you lower on Jerry Jeudy than I am? What are your thoughts about Van Jefferson as a wide receiver 3 in the LA offense? Can he still break out? Will he be hindered by those other 2 players? I'm here for all of it. If you guys have questions, comments, concerns, drop those in the comment section as well. And again, click that subscribe button if you're new around here. I appreciate the heck out of all of you guys. And I'm excited to continue talking fantasy with you guys through this offseason, in the summer here, through the 2022 regular season. We're here for it all. So go check out SFS on our other platforms. Check out some of the links in the description. Join our email list for some free weekly articles through SFS Weekly. You guys will get access to all that stuff. I put out one every week. I missed this past week because I was finishing off those draft guides for you guys, but all that stuff is ready to go. We're ready to pump out a ton of content here the rest of the summer, and I hope you guys are here for it as well. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace out.